Welcome everyone to our channel. Today, we're embarking on a journey back in time, delving into a fascinating yet often overlooked chapter of American history. The rugged, demanding, and utterly captivating world of a 1920s logging camp. Forget the romanticized notions you might have from old movies. The reality of life for these early lumberjacks was a stark contrast, a testament to human endurance, grit, and sheer willpower against the raw power of nature. This wasn't just a job, it was a daily battle for survival, a relentless grind where men would routinely burn upwards of 8,000 calories a day, just to meet the demanding physical requirements of their work under some of the most unforgiving conditions imaginable. Imagine the sheer energy required, the relentless physical exertion from dawn till dusk, fueling their bodies with massive quantities of food simply to keep going. Day after day, week after week, deep in the isolated wilderness. The 1920s, often remembered as the Roaring Twenties, a decade of jazz, flappers, and burgeoning modernity in urban centers, held a completely different reality for thousands of men toiling in the forests. Far from the city lights and booming economy, these logging camps were self-contained communities, carved out of the wilderness, where the rhythms of life were dictated by the seasons, the trees, and the insatiable demand for timber. These men, often referred to as timber beasts or roughnecks, were the backbone of an industry that fueled the expansion and construction of a rapidly industrializing nation. Every board, every beam, every piece of lumber that built America's homes, factories, and infrastructure often originated from these remote, dangerous, and incredibly industrious camps. Their stories, etched into the very fabric of our national heritage, deserve our attention and respect, offering profound insights into an era when human ingenuity and physical strength were pushed to their absolute limits. Life in these logging camps was a true crucible of resilience. These men faced an array of perils that would make most modern workers blanch. Picture this: giant trees, hundreds of feet tall, crashing down with thunderous roars. Limbs and trunks could fall unexpectedly, earning them the chilling moniker widowmakers, capable of ending a life in a blink of an eye. The tools of their trade, from razor-sharp axes to massive, cumbersome saws, were constant sources of danger, leading to deep cuts, lost limbs, and debilitating injuries. And then there were the colossal machines they operated, powerful beasts of steel and steam, each posing its own unique set of risks. The sheer scale of the operation, the immense weight of the timber, and the constant movement of heavy equipment meant that every single moment was fraught with potential disaster. There was no room for error, no margin for complacency. A lapse in concentration could, and often did, have fatal consequences. Beyond the immediate hazards of falling timber and heavy machinery, the living conditions within the camps themselves were incredibly harsh. These men resided in cramped, rudimentary bunkhouses, often little more than hastily constructed shacks designed for maximum occupancy rather than comfort or hygiene. Privacy was a luxury unknown, with dozens of men sleeping side by side in crowded conditions. Sanitation was rudimentary at best, and the constant presence of lice and other vermin was an accepted, if unpleasant, part of daily life. Disease spread easily in such close quarters, especially when combined with the lack of proper medical facilities. A minor injury, a simple cut or scrape, could quickly escalate into a life-threatening infection in an environment where antiseptics and antibiotics were either scarce or completely unavailable. Imagine being miles, sometimes days, away from the nearest doctor or hospital, a stark reminder of their isolation and vulnerability. The wilderness itself was an adversary. Loggers frequently contended with extreme weather, from biting winter blizzards that froze the ground solid and made every movement treacherous, to scorching summer heat that amplified the risk of dehydration and exhaustion. Unexpected encounters with dangerous wildlife, such as bears or cougars, were not uncommon, adding another layer of unpredictable danger to an already perilous profession. The very remoteness of these camps, while necessary for accessing untouched forests, meant that loggers were often cut off from the outside world for months on end. This isolation, coupled with the relentless physical labor and constant threat of injury, fostered a unique camaraderie among the men, a bond forged in shared hardship and mutual dependence. They relied on each other not just for help with tasks, but for moral support, for a sense of community in an otherwise desolate and demanding existence. Yet, despite these formidable challenges, the 1920s also heralded significant advancements in the logging industry, particularly with the widespread adoption of steam-powered logging engines, affectionately known as the steam donkey. This ingenious machine, initially conceived by Dolbear and inspired by ships' anchor winches, completely revolutionized the way timber was moved and processed. Before the steam donkey, the monumental task of dragging massive logs from deep within the forest to a collection point relied almost entirely on brute human strength and the pulling power of oxen or horses. This was an arduous, slow, and incredibly labor-intensive process, limiting the size of logs that could be moved and the efficiency of the entire operation. The advent of the steam donkey changed everything. The steam donkey became an indispensable tool, dramatically easing the physical burden on the workers and significantly boosting efficiency in logging operations. Picture this powerful machine, a robust steam engine mounted on skids or a sled, equipped with large drums for winding heavy steel cables. It operated by generating immense power through a boiler, which heated water to create high-pressure steam. This steam would then drive pistons, which in turn rotated the winding drums. These drums were the heart of the machine, as they would spool in thick cables attached to logs, pulling them across the rough forest floor with incredible force. Its capacity to haul huge logs from deep within the forest to a central landing, a task that once required dozens of men and animals, was nothing short of revolutionary. This wasn't just about moving timber faster, it was about moving more timber, more efficiently, and in conditions that were previously considered impossible. The application of this groundbreaking technology wasn't merely a productivity boost. It was a testament to human ingenuity and an unyielding drive for progress. The steam donkey allowed loggers to tackle steeper slopes, rougher terrain, and larger, heavier trees than ever before. It could pull logs over obstacles, up hills, and through dense underbrush with a power that animal teams simply couldn't match. This innovation fundamentally transformed the economics of logging, making previously inaccessible timber stands viable for harvesting. However, operating these magnificent beasts was no simple feat. It required skilled engineers and operators who understood the intricacies of steam power, knew how to manage pressure, keep fires stoked, and expertly manipulate the cables to avoid snags and minimize damage to the logs or the surrounding environment. Their expertise was crucial, ensuring the safety of the crew and the smooth flow of operations. The roaring, hissing, and clanking of a steam donkey at work became the defining soundtrack of many a 1920s logging camp, a powerful symbol of the industrial might slowly conquering the wild. In addition to technological innovations, loggers in these camps developed highly specialized methods to deal with particularly challenging tree species and difficult terrain. Take, for instance, the red spruce, a tree known for its unique growth pattern and relatively shallow root system, which presented unique harvesting challenges. Traditional logging methods might not be effective or safe in areas dominated by such trees. The loggers, masters of adaptation and problem-solving, had to constantly adjust their strategies. This often involved the use of spar poles, which were essentially towering, sturdy trees specially chosen and rigged to serve as central anchors for complex cable systems. These spar poles would have a series of blocks and lines attached to them, forming a sophisticated pulley system that allowed the steam donkey to exert force in multiple directions, lifting and maneuvering logs with greater precision and control. These complex rigging systems were marvels of practical engineering, Loggers would climb hundreds of feet up a spar tree, often without the safety equipment we take for granted today, to install massive blocks and guidelines. The skills required for this work were incredible, demanding not only immense physical strength and courage, but also a deep understanding of physics, mechanics, and the inherent properties of wood and cable. They would calculate tensions, understand stress points, and anticipate the behavior of falling or moving timber, all on the fly, often in the midst of a noisy and dangerous environment. Their ability to adapt and innovate in the face of natural obstacles was truly astonishing. They weren't just cutting trees, they were orchestrating a complex ballet of man, machine, and nature, often in incredibly treacherous conditions. These specialized skills, combined with seamless teamwork and an intimate knowledge of the forest, were absolutely critical to completing their work as efficiently and safely as humanly possible, minimizing risk to both the loggers and the valuable timber they sought. The stories of life in these logging camps are not just historical footnotes. They are a vital part of our shared legacy. When viewers engage with documentaries about this era, a common thread often emerges: a deep, personal connection to the past. Many people share poignant tales of their own ancestors who bravely ventured into the deep woods, operating the very equipment or working alongside the machines that would evolve over decades to become the cornerstone of modern forestry. These accounts highlight the human element, reminding us that behind the statistics and the industrial advancements were real people with real families making immense sacrifices. Historic photographs, often stark and black and white, come alive with vibrant stories in these documentaries, transporting viewers back to a time when logging was not merely a job, but a complete way of life, an all-consuming existence demanding every ounce of strength and spirit. These images and narratives vividly illustrate the daily struggles and the hard-won triumphs of the men who shaped the timber industry, offering profound insights into a life that was both incredibly arduous and, in its own way, deeply fulfilling. The camaraderie, the satisfaction of a hard day's work, the immense skill involved in felling a giant tree or rigging a spar pole. These were all integral parts of their experience. The loggers often formed close-knit communities, sharing their meals, their stories, and their meager comforts in the isolated camps. The challenges they faced fostered a unique bond, a sense of shared purpose and mutual reliance that transcended the harshness of their surroundings. Their legacy isn't just in the timber they felled, but in the enduring spirit of resilience, innovation, and community that they left behind. These personal anecdotes and historical records serve as powerful reminders of the sacrifices made and the foundations laid by these early pioneers of the logging industry. In essence, the lives of these logging camp workers in the 1920s stand as a compelling narrative of resilience, immense danger, and continuous innovation. From the powerful steam-driven machines they mastered to the unpredictable forces of the untamed wilderness they confronted, every single day presented a fresh set of formidable challenges. These men built their lives around the cycles of the forest, adapting to its demands and harnessing its resources with a blend of brute strength, practical skill, and an ever-evolving understanding of technology. Our exploration into this era, as presented in comprehensive historical accounts and documentaries, has garnered widespread acclaim for its informative and engaging portrayal, providing viewers with a truly profound understanding of a pivotal era in American history. It goes beyond the simplistic narratives, delving into the intricate details of their daily existence, their struggles, and their triumphs, offering a nuanced perspective on a complex and vital industry. The reverberations of these loggers' stories continue to resonate strongly today, serving as powerful reminders of the unyielding human spirit and the sheer determination that defined their lives. Their enduring impact on the logging industry, and indeed on the very landscape of industrial America, is undeniable. They were the architects of our modern timber infrastructure, the individuals whose sweat and sacrifice literally built the framework of a developing nation. They laid the groundwork for future generations of forestry, establishing practices and pushing technological boundaries that would continue to evolve for decades. As we reflect on their arduous yet incredibly impactful lives, we gain a deeper appreciation for the foundational work that went into shaping our world. This glimpse into the heart of a 1920s logging camp is not just a history lesson. It's an homage to the strength, resourcefulness, and indomitable will of those who tamed the wild to build America, one log at a time. It's a story of human endeavor against overwhelming odds, a testament to what can be achieved through sheer effort and unwavering dedication. We invite you to continue this journey with us, to uncover more layers of this rich and vital past as we honor the men who worked the timber and shaped a nation. The lives of these loggers were intrinsically woven into the very fabric of America's industrial expansion, fueling the growth of cities, providing materials for homes, factories, and newspapers, and driving an economy that was rapidly modernizing. Without the tireless, perilous work of these individuals, the nation simply couldn't have built itself into the powerhouse it became. Their sweat and resilience literally laid the groundwork, from the humble wooden shack to the towering skyscraper. But what did this life truly entail? Beyond the sheer physical demand and the constant shadow of danger, let's delve deeper into the daily routines, the challenging environment, and the human spirit that defined life in a 1920s logging camp. Imagine waking before dawn, often in pitch blackness, to the clang of a metal triangle or the blare of a whistle cutting through the crisp, cold forest air. This was the logger's alarm clock, signaling the start of another grueling day. Inside the bunkhouse, a large, rectangular structure often made from rough-hewn timbers or planks, dozens of men would stir from their sleep. These bunkhouses were far from luxurious. They were typically long, narrow rooms packed with double or triplet-tiered bunks, each fitted with a straw mattress, sometimes a coarse blanket, and little else. Privacy was a foreign concept, a luxury unknown to these men. The air was thick with the smells of stale sweat, wood smoke from a central stove, and the lingering odor of unwashed bodies and damp wool. Personal hygiene was rudimentary at best. A shared basin for washing, if available, would often be filled with cold water, and a quick scrub was all that could be managed before breakfast. Lice and fleas were constant companions, an accepted, if irritating, part of camp life, leading to endless scratching and the periodic, often futile, attempts at delousing. The heart of any logging camp, second only to the woods themselves, was the cookhouse. This wasn't just a place to eat. It was the nerve center where the staggering caloric needs of the loggers were met. The cook, often a burly, no-nonsense character, was one of the most respected and sometimes feared figures in camp. A good cook was essential for morale, as the food was literally the fuel that kept these human engines running. Breakfast was a silent, hurried affair. Men would file in, grab their plates, and load up on massive portions of flapjacks, eggs, bacon, potatoes, beans, and coffee. Conversation was usually discouraged during meals. The focus was on eating as much as possible, as quickly as possible. Every calorie counted, providing the energy required to burn through those 8,000 calories a day. The food was simple, hearty, and designed for sustenance, not gourmet appeal. It was an unspoken rule that you ate everything on your plate, because wasting food was an insult to the cook and a direct affront to the camp's efficiency. After breakfast, the loggers would gather their tools, axes, crosscut saws, peavies, and cant hooks, and begin the often long trek into the depths of the forest, sometimes miles from camp. This walk itself was a challenge, navigating uneven terrain, slippery roots, and hidden obstacles, all while carrying heavy, sharp implements. The forest was their office, a formidable and unforgiving workspace. Upon reaching their designated felling site, the crews would split into specialized teams. The fallers, typically 2 men, would size up a tree, determining its lean and the best direction for it to fall. This wasn't guesswork. It was a highly skilled process requiring an intimate understanding of the tree's anatomy and the surrounding environment. Using their razor-sharp axes, they'd make a precisely calculated undercut on the side of the tree where they wanted it to fall. Then, with a long Tumen crosscut saw, they would begin sawing from the opposite side, slowly but steadily working through the massive trunk. The rhythmic swish-swish of the saw, interspersed with the occasional timber, cry warning of a falling giant, was the soundtrack of the logging woods. Once a tree was felled, the buckers would step in. These men were responsible for limbing the tree, removing all its branches, and then cutting the massive trunk into manageable lengths or logs, suitable for transport. This again involved the Tumen crosscut saw and immense physical effort. Every swing of an axe, every pull of a saw, had to be precise. A slip could mean a deep gash, a lost limb, or worse, the constant threat of widowmakers. Those treacherous, broken branches or loose tops that could suddenly dislodge and plummet without warning loomed large overhead. It was a perpetual game of risk assessment, where vigilance was the only defense against potentially fatal accidents. The silence of the forest could be deceptive, harboring unseen dangers that demanded constant attention. After the trees were bucked into logs, the next challenge was moving them out of the dense forest to a landing, a central collection point. This is where the mighty steam donkey truly shone, revolutionizing the logging process. Before these ingenious machines, logs were moved by teams of oxen or horses, a slow, arduous, and less efficient method. The steam donkey, with its powerful winch and winding drums, could pull enormous logs over rough terrain with relative ease. It was an engine of sheer power, a marvel of early 20th century engineering that transformed the sheer logistics of timber extraction. The operation of a steam donkey was a symphony of coordinated effort and specialized roles, each person's safety dependent on the others. At the heart of it was the donkey engine, a sturdy, portable steam engine fired by wood scraps and tended by an engineer and a fireman. From the donkey, heavy steel cables, sometimes hundreds of feet long, would snake out into the woods. The choker setters were the bravest, or perhaps the most foolhardy, of the crew. They would venture deep into the underbrush, attach a loop of cable, called a choker, around the end of a log, and then signal to the whistle punk. The whistle punk, often a young man or boy, communicated with the donkey engineer using a complex system of whistle signals, a series of short and long blasts, each signifying a different command. Pull in, slack out, stop, or danger. With a series of shrieks from the donkey's whistle, the powerful winch would engage, and the log, often weighing several tons, would be dragged, often violently, through the forest, leaving a trail of destruction in its wake. The sheer force involved meant that snapping cables or runaway logs were a constant threat, creating an incredibly dangerous environment for anyone working nearby. The journey of the logs didn't end at the landing. From there, they needed to be transported to the sawmill. In the 1920s, logging railroads were the lifeblood of larger-scale timber operations. These narrow-gauge railways, often built quickly and temporarily into remote forest areas, were a feat of engineering in themselves. Loggers would lay tracks over uneven ground, through ravines, and across makeshift bridges, extending the reach of the logging operation deeper and deeper into previously inaccessible timber stands. Specialized loader crews, often using a separate, smaller steam donkey or a crane, would hoist the massive logs onto flatbed rail cars. These heavily laden trains, pulled by powerful steam locomotives, would then slowly chug their way out of the forest, carrying their precious cargo to the bustling sawmills where the logs would finally be transformed into lumber. The rumble of the logging train, like the shriek of the steam donkey, was another defining sound of the 1920s logging frontier. Lunch was a brief and often simple affair, eaten on site. It might consist of cold biscuits, a piece of salt pork, or whatever the cookhouse had packed for them that morning. There was no hot meal or comfortable break. It was a quick refueling before returning to the relentless work. The afternoon mirrored the morning's intensity, continuing until the light began to fade, marking another long day completed. The journey back to camp was one of profound exhaustion, muscles aching, bodies weary, but with the satisfaction of a hard day's work behind them. Evenings in camp, though seemingly a respite, offered little in the way of true relaxation or entertainment. After another colossal meal in the cookhouse, men would retreat to the bunkhouse. There was no electricity, so light came from oil lamps or candles, casting flickering shadows across the rough wooden walls. For many, the evening was spent mending clothes, sharpening tools, or simply sitting in silence, too tired for conversation. Some might read a well-worn newspaper or a dog-eared book, if they were literate. Card games like poker or cribbage were popular, offering a rare opportunity for social interaction and a bit of diversion. Storytelling was common, sharing tales of past exploits, near misses, or dreams of a life beyond the timber. But the overwhelming reality was the isolation. Many camps were deep in the wilderness, days or even weeks from the nearest town. Letters from home were treasured, if they arrived at all, and writing back was a rare luxury. The lack of connection to the outside world, combined with the sheer physical and mental demands of the job, fostered a unique camaraderie among the men. They were a band of brothers, united by shared hardship and mutual dependence in a harsh environment. This deep sense of brotherhood was crucial for survival. In a world where a wrong step or a faulty piece of equipment could mean instant death, trusting the man next to you was paramount. They relied on each other not just for physical safety but also for emotional support in a lonely existence. The foreman, the camp boss, and even the cook played vital roles in maintaining order and morale. The filer, the man responsible for sharpening the saws, was another highly respected individual. A dull saw not only made the work harder but also increased the risk of injury. His skill was essential to the camp's efficiency and the workers' well-being. The dangers of logging were manifold and ever-present. Beyond the falling trees and snapping cables, the lack of adequate medical care amplified every injury. A deep axe cut, a splinter, or a broken bone, which today would be a routine visit to an emergency room, could quickly become life-threatening in the remote logging camps of the 1920s. Infections, tetanus, or gangrene were common and often fatal consequences of even minor injuries. The nearest doctor might be days away by horse, sled, or foot if one was available at all. Camp first aid was rudimentary, relying on the limited knowledge of a camp foreman or an experienced logger. Many men carried the scars of past accidents, a testament to the brutal realities of their profession. The natural environment itself posed formidable challenges. Working through the biting cold of winter, with deep snow making every step treacherous and every tool frigid, required incredible fortitude. Summers brought oppressive heat, swarms of mosquitoes and black flies, and the constant threat of forest fires ignited by sparks from steam donkeys or locomotives. Encounters with wildlife, from curious bears to territorial moose, added another layer of unpredictability to an already perilous job. These men were constantly battling not just the trees, but the very elements and creatures of the untamed wilderness. The men who populated these logging camps were a diverse lot. Many were immigrants, drawn by the promise of steady wages, however hard-won, in a new land. Others were young men seeking adventure or those escaping difficult circumstances in urban areas. There were drifters, experienced woodsmen, and greenhorns learning the ropes through trial by fire. This melting pot of backgrounds, cultures, and languages forged a unique subculture, a distinct identity rooted in the demanding rhythm of the logging life. For many, it wasn't just a job. It was a chosen, albeit difficult, way of life. They were rough, resilient, and resourceful, embodying a spirit of self-reliance that defined much of early 20th century America. The timber they harvested fueled an unprecedented era of growth in the United States. The booming 1920s saw an explosion in construction, driven by increasing urbanization and a demand for housing. Paper mills consumed vast quantities of pulpwood to feed the growing print media industry. Furniture factories turned logs into everything from dining tables to rocking chairs. This massive demand placed immense pressure on the forests, and consequently on the loggers. Their efforts were directly tied to the economic prosperity and modernization of the nation, even if their isolated lives often kept them far from the beneficiaries of their labor. The wages, while good for the time, were hard-earned and certainly justified by the extraordinary risks and physical demands of the job. Logging camps created their own isolated microeconomies, often supporting small communities that sprang up around them, providing services and supplies to the transient workforce. While logging practices have evolved dramatically since the 1920s, much of the foundational knowledge and many of the skills developed during this era laid the groundwork for modern forestry. The understanding of how trees behave, the mechanics of felling, and the logistics of timber extraction were honed by these early pioneers. Even as technology has advanced, replacing steam donkeys with diesel-powered machinery and crosscut saws with chainsaws, the fundamental principles of forestry and timber harvesting owe a debt to the ingenuity and sheer grit of these historical loggers. The legacy of these logging camps extends beyond the technical aspects of the industry. It lives on in the stories passed down through generations, in the archives of historical societies, and in the preserved images that give us glimpses into this arduous world. When we see those faded photographs, often showing men with weathered faces, broad shoulders, and powerful hands, we're not just looking at history, we're witnessing a testament to human spirit and unwavering dedication. These were the men who conquered colossal trees and built a nation, one log at a time. Their contributions, though often unsung, were monumental, shaping not only the physical landscape but also the industrial character of America. Their willingness to confront danger, endure hardship, and embrace innovation in the face of overwhelming odds continues to inspire and remind us of the incredible human capacity for resilience. Their contributions, though often unsung, were monumental, shaping not only the physical landscape but also the industrial character of America. Their willingness to confront danger, endure hardship, and embrace innovation in the face of overwhelming odds continues to inspire and remind us of the incredible human capacity for resilience. These loggers were more than just laborers. They were the architects of a rapidly industrializing nation, providing the raw materials that built our homes, our factories, our newspapers, and even the very railroads that crisscross the continent. Their efforts laid the foundational timbers for much of what we recognize as modern America, often from remote, unforgiving wildernesses that few dared to tread. The forests they toiled in were vast and wild, presenting a natural grandeur that was both awe-inspiring and terrifyingly indifferent to human endeavor. The stories from these 1920s logging camps are not just tales of individual fortitude, they are a vital part of our collective heritage, echoing the relentless spirit of a generation that quite literally shaped the physical and economic landscape of the United States. They faced a unique blend of physical peril and psychological isolation, working in environments that pushed the limits of human endurance. Far removed from the bustling cities and burgeoning suburbs, these camps were self-contained worlds, often hundreds of miles from the nearest town, accessible only by rough logging roads or temporary rail lines. This isolation fostered a unique culture of self-reliance, camaraderie, and a rough-and-tumble resilience that defined the logging life. For many young men, logging offered an escape from hardscrabble farms or the stifling confines of urban poverty, promising adventure and relatively high wages for physically demanding work. However, it demanded a steep price in terms of personal comfort and safety. Let's delve deeper into what daily life truly entailed in these rugged outposts of industry. Imagine waking before dawn, often in the pitch black of a crisp forest morning, to the clanging of the cookhouse bell. The air would be thick with the smell of wood smoke, damp earth, and brewing coffee, a potent aroma that signaled the start of another grueling day. The bunkhouses, these men's only real home for months on end, were utilitarian to say the least. Typically long, rectangular wooden structures, they were designed for maximum occupancy with minimal amenities. Inside, rows of wooden bunks, often 2 or 3 high, lined the walls, each barely wide enough for a man to stretch out. Privacy was a luxury simply unheard of. Personal space was defined by the thin mattress and scratchy woolen blankets assigned to each logger. Every sound, every movement, every snore of a bunkmate was shared, creating an environment that could feel both claustrophobic and strangely communal. Sanitation, by modern standards, was practically non-existent. Without running water or proper sewage systems, personal hygiene was a constant battle. Shared wash basins, often filled with cold water drawn from a nearby stream or well, offered little respite from the grime and sweat that accumulated during a workday. The bunkhouses were often infested with lice, bedbugs, and other pests, a common and miserable affliction that contributed to the overall discomfort and health risks. These conditions, combined with the close quarters, made the spread of illnesses like influenza, tuberculosis, or even common colds incredibly rapid and debilitating, especially given the limited medical resources available. A logger's resilience wasn't just about facing the forest. It was about enduring the harsh realities of camp life itself, a testament to their tough constitutions and their determination to earn a living despite such formidable challenges. The cookhouse, by contrast, was often considered the heart of the logging camp, a sanctuary of warmth and sustenance in an otherwise harsh existence. The cookie, as the camp cook was affectionately known, held a position of immense importance and respect. Their ability to consistently feed dozens, sometimes hundreds, of hungry men with hearty, calorie-dense meals was crucial for morale and productivity. These loggers were burning an astounding 5,000 to 8,000 calories a day, a level of exertion that demanded a constant replenishment of energy. Breakfast was usually a massive affair, a carb-laden feast designed to fuel hours of back-breaking labor. Platters piled high with flapjacks, bacon, eggs, vast quantities of fresh-baked bread, and gallons of strong, black coffee. Lunch, often carried out to the work site in tin pails, might consist of sandwiches, cold meats, and sometimes stew. Dinner was the most anticipated meal, a chance to gather, unwind, and devour a hot, filling spread that could include roasted meats, potatoes, beans, vegetables often canned or dried, and always a generous portion of dessert, like pies or puddings. This was not gourmet dining, but it was essential, life-sustaining fuel, prepared with skill and efficiency, and often served in a bustling, noisy atmosphere filled with the day's tales and banter. The workday itself was relentlessly demanding, starting at first light and often continuing until dusk, with little regard for the clock. Loggers were generally paid by the day or by the amount of timber they produced, incentivizing long, strenuous hours. There were no weekends in the modern sense. Work continued 6 days a week, sometimes even 7, if deadlines loomed or weather permitted. The rhythm of the logging season dictated much of their schedule, with operations often slowing or ceasing during heavy snows or mud seasons, though some camps operated year-round. This relentless pace, combined with the physical intensity, meant that a logger's body was constantly pushed to its limits, leading to chronic fatigue, muscle strain, and an increased susceptibility to injury. The dangers of the forest were omnipresent, a constant companion to every swing of an axe, every pull of a saw, every shout exchanged between crew members. The term widowmakers wasn't just a grim nickname. It was a daily reality. These were loose branches, broken tops of trees, or entire dead trees perched precariously in the canopy, ready to fall without warning. A slight gust of wind, the vibration of a falling tree nearby, or even the subtle shift in temperature could send tons of timber hurtling downwards, crushing anything, or anyone, in its path. The loggers had to develop an almost instinctual awareness of their surroundings, constantly scanning the sky and listening for the telltale creaks and groans of stressed timber. Yet, even the most experienced men could be caught unawares, making widowmakers one of the most feared and indiscriminate killers in the woods. Beyond these natural hazards, the tools of the trade themselves posed immense risks. Axes, with their razor-sharp blades, could slip and cause deep, disabling gashes. Crosscut saws, human instruments of brute force, could bind and snap. Then there were the machines, powerful beasts that revolutionized logging but also introduced new scales of danger. The steam donkey, while a marvel of engineering, was a complex and temperamental apparatus. Its massive boilers, operating under high pressure, could explode if not properly maintained, unleashing a catastrophic wave of superheated steam and shrapnel. The heavy steel cables, under incredible tension as they dragged colossal logs, could snap with the force of a cannon, whipping through the air and severing limbs or heads. Operating these machines required immense skill, courage, and unwavering concentration. A momentary lapse could lead to a log breaking free, rolling down a hillside, or swinging unexpectedly, crushing anyone in its path. The sheer scale of the timber being moved, often logs weighing many tons, meant that even a minor miscalculation could have lethal consequences. Medical facilities in these remote camps were rudimentary at best. A designated first aid station, often a small, Spartan room, might be staffed by a camp clerk or a senior logger with some basic medical knowledge, relying on a limited supply of bandages, antiseptics, and perhaps some pain relievers. Serious injuries, such as broken bones, deep lacerations requiring stitches, or amputations, meant a slow, agonizing journey by horse and cart, or later, by logging railroad, to the nearest doctor who could be days away. Infections were rampant in the absence of antibiotics, and even a seemingly minor cut could become life-threatening. The lack of adequate medical care further compounded the risks of an already perilous profession, making every logger keenly aware that one wrong move could mean not just an injury, but permanent disability or even death, far from home and family. Beyond the physical dangers, there was the profound psychological toll of isolation. Weeks and months stretched into an endless cycle of grueling work, often without sight of family or loved ones. Letters were a lifeline, but mail delivery was sporadic and unreliable. For many loggers, the camp became their entire world, and camaraderie among fellow workers was essential for survival, both practical and emotional. They formed tight-knit bonds, relying on each other for assistance, support, and companionship in a world that often felt hostile. Storytelling around the pot-bellied stove in the bunkhouse, impromptu card games, or the occasional shared bottle of moonshine provided moments of respite and helped to forge a sense of community amidst the hardship. These shared experiences, the dangers faced and overcome together, created a powerful sense of brotherhood that defined the logging fraternity. The 1920s truly marked a transformative decade for the logging industry, particularly with the widespread adoption of steam power. The steam donkey, inspired by marine anchor winches and perfected by inventors like John Dolbear, wasn't just an improvement, it was a revolution. Before its arrival, Moving massive logs from deep within the forest was an excruciatingly slow and labor-intensive process, relying heavily on animal power, teams of oxen or horses, or sheer human muscle. Logs had to be laboriously swamped, cleared of brush, and often slid along greased skid roads. The steam donkey changed everything. This ingenious machine, essentially a steam engine powering a large winch drum, could haul enormous logs over considerable distances with unprecedented speed and power. Its distinctive whistle became the siren song of progress, echoing through the dense forests, signaling a new era of efficiency and scale. Operating a steam donkey was a complex task requiring a specialized crew. The donkey puncher was the engineer, responsible for maintaining the boiler, firing the engine, and operating the controls that spooled the heavy steel cables. He had to possess a deep understanding of steam mechanics and an acute sense of timing and pressure. The signalman, or whistle punk, communicated with the puncher using a series of whistle blasts, conveying instructions for starting, stopping, or adjusting the tension on the lines. Deep in the woods, choker setters would wrap thick steel cables, called chokers, around the ends of felled logs. These chokers would then be hooked to the main haul line, which the steam donkey would reel in, dragging the logs, often at alarming speeds, through rough terrain to a central landing or a logging railroad spur. Further down the line, chasers would unhook the chokers, preparing the logs for transport. The entire operation was a symphony of coordinated effort, heavy machinery, and constant vigilance against error. The steam donkey didn't just move logs. It opened up new frontiers. Previously inaccessible areas of dense forest, too steep or too remote for animal logging, could now be harvested. This exponential increase in efficiency meant that logging operations could scale up dramatically, meeting the ever-growing demand for timber in an expanding nation. However, this increased power also came with increased danger. The high-tension cables, the immense weights being moved, and the sheer force of the machinery meant that accidents, when they occurred, were often catastrophic. A snapped cable could whip through the air with deadly force. A log breaking free could roll down a hill, flattening everything in its path. The advancements in technology, while making the work more productive, also demanded a heightened level of skill, caution, and teamwork from every logger involved. Beyond the iconic steam donkey, other technologies were also evolving during the 1920s. Logging railroads, which had been developing since the late 19th century, became more sophisticated and widespread. These temporary rail lines, often constructed directly into the heart of logging areas, were essential for transporting the vast quantities of timber to sawmills. Specialized locomotives, like the Shay or Climax-geared locomotives, were designed to handle the steep grades and tight curves of mountain logging tracks. Trucks, though not yet dominant, were beginning to make inroads, especially for hauling smaller loads over shorter distances or on newly constructed logging roads. This decade was truly a bridge between the old ways of logging, powered by muscle and animal, and the increasingly mechanized future that would eventually lead to today's highly advanced machinery. Specific tree species presented unique challenges that demanded specialized techniques, showcasing the ingenuity of these loggers. Take, for instance, the red spruce in the northeastern United States. Unlike some other conifers, red spruce often has a shallow root system, making it more prone to blowdowns or instability, especially in mountainous terrain or on exposed ridges. To overcome these challenges and efficiently extract timber from difficult landscapes, loggers often employed the spar pole method. This involved selecting a tall, sturdy tree, often a Douglas fir or another strong conifer, that could withstand immense strain. A highly skilled and incredibly brave logger, known as a high climber or rigger, would ascend this spar tree, often hundreds of feet into the air, using climbing spurs and safety belts. With axes and saws, they would carefully top the tree, cutting off its crown, and then meticulously limb it, removing all branches. This dangerous work, high above the ground with no safety nets, required immense physical strength, balance, and nerves of steel. Once topped and limbed, the spar tree became a colossal, natural crane. Heavy steel cables and pulleys were attached near the top, creating a central anchor point for the entire logging operation. Guy wires would be extended from the spar tree to surrounding stumps or deadman anchors, bracing it against the tremendous pulling forces. From this central spar, main haul lines and skidding lines would extend into the surrounding forest, often for hundreds of yards. The steam donkey, positioned at the base of the spar, would then use these lines to drag felled logs toward the central landing. This method allowed loggers to efficiently clear large areas, pulling logs uphill, downhill, and across uneven terrain with remarkable precision. The high climber's role was paramount. An error in topping or rigging could lead to the spar tree itself failing, collapsing, and causing widespread devastation. Their expertise was not just about cutting wood, but about understanding the physics and stresses of enormous forces, ensuring the safety and productivity of the entire camp. The loggers' adaptation and problem-solving skills in the face of nature's challenges were truly astounding. They were not just laborers, they were practical engineers, keen observers of the forest, and master craftsmen. Their methods were often developed through generations of trial and error, passed down through experience and mentorship. The ability to read the forest, to understand the lean of a tree, the tension of the wood, the direction of a fall, or the optimal path for skidding a log, was an invaluable skill. These specialized techniques weren't just about efficiency. They were also about mitigating risk in an inherently dangerous profession. The precise coordination between the fallers, buckers, choker setters, high climbers, and donkey punchers was critical for smooth operation and, most importantly, for avoiding accidents. Each man relied on the others, creating a complex, interdependent system that was as fragile as it was robust. The stories from these logging camps resonate far beyond historical documents. When we watch documentaries about this era, comment sections often reveal a deep, personal connection to this past. Many viewers share tales of their own ancestors who braved these wild forests, who operated those very steam donkeys that evolved into the powerful machinery used today. These aren't just abstract historical facts. They are living legacies, vivid historical photographs and captivating narratives found in old records transport viewers back to a time when logging was not merely a job but a way of life, a grueling yet proud profession. These images provide a tangible link, illustrating the daily struggles and triumphs of the men who shaped the timber industry, offering a profound glimpse into a life that was both incredibly demanding and strangely fulfilling for those who embraced its challenges. The legacy of these 1920s loggers extends far beyond the lumber they harvested. Their work significantly contributed to the environmental transformation of vast swathes of North America. The scale of logging during this period was immense, often driven by a philosophy of unlimited resources. Entire forests were clear-cut, altering ecosystems, impacting wildlife habitats, and contributing to soil erosion. While these environmental consequences were not fully understood or appreciated at the time, acknowledging them is crucial for a complete historical perspective. The rapid expansion of the logging industry also laid the groundwork for future environmental conservation movements. As people began to witness the depletion of once boundless forests and advocate for more sustainable practices. In conclusion, the life of a logger in the 1920s was an epic narrative of resilience, danger, and innovation. From the powerful machines they harnessed to the unpredictable forces of nature they confronted daily, every day was a testament to their strength and spirit. Documentaries and historical accounts of this era are invaluable, earning widespread praise for their informative and engaging portrayal, providing us with a deeper understanding of a pivotal chapter in American history. The stories of these pioneering loggers continue to echo through time, reminding us of the indomitable human will and determination that forged their lives and the lasting impact they made on the landscape and the industrial character of America. Their willingness to confront immense challenges, both natural and mechanical, not only built a nation but also left behind a rich tapestry of human endeavor that continues to inspire. We hope this journey into the 1920s logging camps has given you a newfound appreciation for the men who powered an industry and built a nation, one tree at a time. What part of their story resonated most with you? Did any of your ancestors work in the timber industry? Share your thoughts and stories in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel for more deep dives into history, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next adventure. Your engagement helps us continue to bring these fascinating stories to life. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. As we've journeyed through the challenging world of 1920s logging camps, it becomes clear that these stories are more than just historical footnotes. They are vivid testaments to human grit, ingenuity, and an unwavering spirit in the face of overwhelming odds. We've peeled back the layers of a demanding era, an industry built on sheer muscle, innovative machinery, and the rugged determination of men who carved livelihoods out of the wilderness. The echoes of their struggles and triumphs resonate even today, reminding us of the foundations upon which much of our modern industrial landscape was built. It's a compelling narrative, one that intertwines technological progress with the raw power of human endurance, set against the backdrop of America's rapidly evolving industrial age. The sheer physical exertion required by these early loggers is almost unfathomable in our contemporary world. Imagine burning upwards of 8,000 calories a day, a metabolic furnace fueled by relentless labor from dawn till dusk, often in the most unforgiving terrain and weather conditions. This wasn't merely a job, it was an extreme athletic endeavor, a daily test of strength and stamina that pushed the human body to its absolute limits. Every swing of an axe, every pull of a saw, every step through dense underbrush carrying heavy equipment contributed to this monumental energy expenditure. The food provided in camp, though often basic and repetitive, had to be incredibly calorie-dense just to sustain these men. They consumed massive quantities of meat, potatoes, beans, and bread, not for culinary delight, but for pure survival and the fuel needed to tackle another arduous day. This constant hunger and the need for sustenance defined a significant part of their daily existence, underscoring the relentless physical demands of the profession. Beyond the physical toll, the dangers were omnipresent and terrifyingly real. The term widowmakers was not an exaggeration. It was a grim reality, a daily threat hanging literally over their heads. These dead or unstable tree limbs, dislodged by the vibrations of logging operations or the wind, could fall without warning, ending a life in an instant. But the risks extended far beyond falling timber. Operating enormous, crude machinery with minimal safety features, wielding razor-sharp axes and saws, navigating treacherous slopes, and felling colossal trees all presented grave risks. A misplaced step could lead to a fall. An errant swing could cause a deep gash, and a malfunctioning machine could result in catastrophic injury. Medical care, if available at all, was rudimentary, meaning even a seemingly minor wound could escalate into a life-threatening infection or permanent disability. The isolated nature of these camps meant that professional medical attention was often days away, leaving injured men to the care of their comrades, whose medical knowledge was typically limited to first aid at best. This scarcity of proper health care transformed every accident, no matter how small, into a potential crisis, adding another layer of anxiety to an already perilous existence. And then there were the living conditions. Communal bunkhouses that offered little privacy, often overcrowded and poorly ventilated. Sanitation was rudimentary, leading to widespread issues with lice, bedbugs, and the rapid spread of contagious diseases. These were not comfortable homes, they were utilitarian shelters designed for practicality over comfort, offering little respite from the grueling work. The air was often thick with the smell of unwashed bodies, stale tobacco, and damp wood, a constant reminder of the rough-and-tumble environment. Yet, within these challenging confines, a unique form of camaraderie often blossomed. Sharing such extreme hardships forged powerful bonds among the men, creating a tight-knit community where mutual support was essential for survival. They relied on each other, not just for safety in the woods, but for companionship and psychological support in an otherwise isolating existence. The stories they shared, the songs they sang, and the games they played offered brief moments of levity and humanity amidst the demanding routine, acting as crucial coping mechanisms against the harsh realities of their daily lives. Amidst these arduous conditions, the 1920s also heralded a fascinating era of technological innovation in logging, most notably with the advent of the steam donkey. This ingenious machine, inspired by marine anchor winches and pioneered by figures like John Dolbear, wasn't just an improvement, it was a revolution. Before the steam donkey, moving massive logs from deep within the forest was an agonizingly slow and dangerous process. Relying on animal power, typically oxen or horses, and the brute strength of numerous men, logs were skidded by hand or with draft animals over greased skid roads, an incredibly labor-intensive method. The steam donkey changed everything. It was a self-contained, mobile steam engine fitted with powerful winches and cables, capable of pulling logs weighing many tons with a force unimaginable just a few years prior. This machine could drag logs across rough terrain, up hillsides, and through dense undergrowth, significantly reducing the manual labor required and drastically increasing efficiency. Its piercing whistle became the iconic sound of the logging camp, signaling the start and end of shifts and marking the rhythm of industrial progress. The operation of a steam donkey was a complex dance of skill and coordination. A donkey puncher or engineer was responsible for the engine itself, meticulously managing the steam pressure, water levels, and fuel supply, often wood scraps or coal. Attached to the donkey engine were massive steel cables, sometimes stretching for hundreds of feet or even miles, guided by strategically placed spar trees. These spar trees, often towering old-growth giants, were topped and limbed, then rigged with blocks and pulleys to create a high-lead logging system. A choker setter would wrap a steel cable, called a choker, around a felled log, and then signal to the donkey puncher to begin pulling. It required immense precision and teamwork, with whistle signals communicating instructions across vast distances and through dense forest. One wrong signal, a misjudgment of cable tension, or a mechanical failure could lead to serious accidents, highlighting the inherent dangers even with this advanced machinery. The noise, the steam, the smell of coal smoke, and the sheer power of these machines were awe-inspiring, a testament to human ingenuity applied directly to conquering the wilderness. The steam donkey not only transformed logging operations but also reduced the reliance on animal labor, which brought its own set of challenges, including feeding and caring for large teams of horses or oxen in remote locations. This shift towards mechanization marked a pivotal moment in the industry's evolution, moving logging firmly into the industrial age. Furthermore, these loggers developed highly specialized techniques to tackle unique challenges posed by specific tree species or difficult terrain. Take, for instance, the red spruce. This particular tree, often found in challenging, mountainous environments, presented unique logging difficulties due to its weak taproot system, making it prone to uprooting and creating dangerous situations when felled. The loggers, ever adaptable, devised innovative strategies. They employed steel spar poles and sophisticated rigging systems that allowed them to extract timber safely from steep, inaccessible slopes where conventional ground-skidding methods would have been impossible or exceedingly dangerous. These methods often involved creating aerial pathways for logs, using cables to lift and transport them over obstacles rather than dragging them along the ground. This required an intimate understanding of physics, mechanics, and the unique characteristics of the forest environment. Their ability to solve complex problems on the fly, to innovate with the tools and resources at hand, speaks volumes about their resourcefulness and deep knowledge of their craft. It wasn't just brute force, it was intelligent, calculated risk-taking combined with unparalleled skill that allowed them to succeed where others might have failed. Each logging crew operated almost like a specialized engineering team, constantly assessing the terrain, the timber, and the safest, most efficient way to extract the valuable wood. The legacy of these logging camps extends far beyond the timber they harvested. It lives on in the personal histories and family stories shared by countless descendants of these hardy men. When people watch documentaries or read accounts of this era, they often find deep personal connections. Stories of grandfathers and great-grandfathers who braved the wilderness, who operated these powerful machines, and who helped build the nation, one felled tree at a time. These are not abstract historical figures. They are ancestors, whose toil and sacrifices directly contributed to the lives and opportunities enjoyed by their descendants today. The vivid historical photographs, often black and white images capturing the raw authenticity of their lives, transport viewers back to a time when logging wasn't just an occupation, but a demanding way of life that shaped entire communities. These images serve as powerful windows into the past, illustrating the daily struggles, the camaraderie, and the ultimate triumphs of the men who shaped the lumber industry and, by extension, the economic and social landscape of the burgeoning United States. They show us not just the work, but the faces of resilience, the tools of their trade, and the immense scale of the forests they navigated. These stories also serve as a poignant reminder of the sheer human will that drove American industrial expansion. The men who worked in these camps were pioneers in their own right, pushing the boundaries of technology and human endurance to meet the burgeoning demand for timber that fueled an expanding nation. Their efforts provided the wood for houses, railroads, factories, and countless other necessities, forming the very backbone of America's growth. The logging camps themselves were often temporary, transient communities, yet they were vibrant hubs of activity, attracting men from diverse backgrounds, each seeking opportunity in the vast wilderness. From newly arrived immigrants to seasoned frontiersmen, these camps were melting pots where different cultures converged, bound together by the shared experience of hard labor and mutual reliance. The unique blend of challenges, the isolation, the danger, the back-breaking work created a distinct culture, one marked by self-sufficiency, stoicism, and a deep respect for both the power of nature and the tools of their trade. This cultural tapestry, woven with threads of hardship and resilience, continues to captivate and inspire. In essence, the life of a logger in the 1920s was a profound narrative of resilience, innovation, and an unyielding engagement with both nature's grandeur and its perils. From the powerful, steam-driven machinery they mastered to the unpredictable forces of the wild they contended with, every day presented a unique set of challenges that demanded peak physical and mental fortitude. These men were not just cutting down trees, they were building an industry, pushing the boundaries of technology and forging a distinct identity in the heart of the American wilderness. The captivating stories and detailed information presented in documentaries and historical accounts of this era have garnered significant praise for their ability to not only inform but also deeply engage viewers, offering a rich, comprehensive understanding of a pivotal moment in American industrial history. They allow us to truly appreciate the context of their lives, the stakes involved, and the lasting impact of their labor. The stories of these loggers continue to resonate with a powerful clarity, reminding us of the indomitable human spirit and the relentless determination that shaped not only their individual lives, but also the enduring legacy they left on the logging industry and the broader American landscape. Their tales are a testament to hard work, to making do with what you have, and to the sheer ingenuity required to thrive in a world that constantly tested your limits. They highlight an era when human strength, coupled with mechanical innovation, literally moved mountains of timber, helping to lay the groundwork for modern society. We are still learning from their experiences, from their triumphs and their struggles, recognizing the deep connection between past endeavors and present-day realities. Understanding this history is not just about appreciating the past, it's about recognizing the human capacity for endurance, innovation, and community. Even under the most trying circumstances, these loggers, in their rugged determination, represent a vital chapter in the American story, a narrative of individuals who faced monumental tasks and found ways to overcome them, leaving behind a legacy that continues to inspire. Their spirit reminds us of the power of dedication and the transformative impact of human endeavor. We're incredibly grateful that you've joined us on this deep dive into the 1920s logging camps. Your curiosity helps keep these fascinating, often overlooked, chapters of history alive and relevant. We hope this journey has given you a newfound appreciation for the incredible strength, ingenuity, and sheer will of the men who shaped this powerful industry. What aspects of this era surprised you the most? Did you have ancestors who worked in these challenging conditions? We'd love to hear your thoughts and personal connections in the comments below. Sharing your insights helps enrich our understanding and keeps these vital conversations going. If you found this exploration as captivating as we did, please consider giving this video a thumbs up and subscribing to our channel. Your support allows us to continue unearthing and sharing these compelling stories from history, bringing to light the experiences of those who came before us. Don't forget to hit that notification bell so you won't miss our next historical adventure. Thank you for being a part of our community, and we look forward to exploring another captivating piece of history with you very soon. We deeply value your engagement and look forward to connecting with you in the comments section. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep appreciating the incredible tapestry of our shared past.